a little bit. New opportunity, existing structures. So basically, design today might see meant to really address that question. Have an existing structure, turn it into. So we'll cover some of the current state laws and streamline pathways. So let me go through some terminology that will probably, so we're all on the same page. So ADU, I'm sure all of you know this or you wouldn't be here, means accessory dwelling unit. We'll actually be talking about two kinds. One is attached to the residence and one is detached. The JADU, junior ADU, caps out at 500 square feet and it's inside the residence. It's contained within the walls of the residence. Sometimes we talk about RHNA. Those are the regional housing needs allocation. So that's certain numbers that every jurisdiction in California needs to hit for types of affordability, levels of affordability in housing. And quite often, ADUs hit some of those levels really nicely. And many communities benefit from being able to count their ADUs. HCD is the Housing and Community Development Department at the state. So why are we doing this? Why does the town want to do this? We're committed to doing this because the ADUs provide an additional type of housing. Sometimes it's more affordable. Sometimes it's just a smaller unit. People are downsizing. RHNA that I spoke about just a minute ago, we can meet some of the goals by providing ADUs. And then both of those components implement our housing element, which was certified by HCD last year. And so we are trying to hit certain numbers, certain targets for providing new dwelling units. And then this last one is pretty important because especially with the large lot sizes in Atherton, you can sneak in a smaller building and nobody really even sees it. So you can add density and development types to a neighborhood without it really changing the character of the neighborhood. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jerry Martin. Jerry's been doing a lot of research, following a lot of the new laws that come out of the state all the time. And so he's been instrumental in keeping the Atherton Town Code up to date with what HCD releases for us.
Thank you, Tom. So I'm Jerry, assistant planner with the town. And Tom already touched on this a bit, but what is an ADU? It's a secondary residential unit on the same lot as a primary home. It can be attached or detached from the main house. What kind of makes an ADU is that it can function as its own independent unit. So it requires its own kitchen, it requires a bathroom, sleeping area, a separate entrance. If it's attached to the home, it can share an entrance with the house internally, but it needs its own separate entrance and it gets its own address. So it's intended for a way to provide housing on the same lot, but keep that level of separation. Next slide, please. Tom also touched a bit on why ADUs matter, but they support multi-generational housing and provide housing for caregivers or family members, often aging parents or younger adults. It's a way to keep family on nearby and a lot of times in places that otherwise they would be priced out of, while also keeping that bit of separation between the family, especially as kids get older or as parents age. You want that separation while being close by still. Number 3, it creates rental income opportunities, can offset housing costs and provide financial stability for those who want to build an ADU or make an ADU out of existing space. It can really help provide financial stability over the long term, having that rental unit there. And then it increases housing options within the existing neighborhoods while preserving the neighborhood character. Like Tom said, it's most of the time you can barely view it from the street, especially in Atherton where the lots are so huge. And then number 5 is help the town meet the housing element and RENA goals. These, I've permitted lots of ADUs over the last couple of years that I've been here. They've been instrumental in helping reach our housing numbers, again, by also not changing the existing neighborhood character we have. Next slide, please. So the state provides 2 pathways towards converting. And when people think of ADUs, a lot of time they, in their mind, have a detached ADU that sits in the backyard. But this is a very common and streamlined way that you can get an ADU on your lot, is you can convert existing space, whether that's a guest house or a garage conversion, whether that's a pool house or rec room, but that can also mean existing space within your house, whether that's an attached garage or the living room or a bedroom. So there's 2 pathways to do it. One is to convert just space, and the other is to legalize an unpermitted unit. The state in the last few years has passed many new laws regarding ADUs, and they highly regulate what cities can do to prevent you from having an ADU. And conversions is one of those such units. So we can't require correction of non-conforming zoning, such as like setbacks, heights, floor area, stuff that a planning department will normally ding you on. We can't really do that with these types of conversions. And at this point, I will pass the mic to Fred, our building official, and he'll talk more on legalizing unpermitted units.
Good evening. So anyway, before we talk about legalizing it, just Tom had mentioned earlier about the benefits of converting an existing space, a building over to an ADU. And there is actual benefits to it besides getting your property or your outbuilding legal. I'll give you an example. We're currently working with an applicant right now. They have a 2,500 square foot recently built, maybe 10 years ago, building on their property. It was built as a guest house and a workout room downstairs, has bar and so forth. And they actually want to convert it to an ADU so that they can get a credit back on their floor area ratio and allow them to build a large car barn, big garage that they want to build. And they can't do that if they can't get that credit towards the floor area ratio. So that is just one, and I've seen that come up a couple of times where people are able to do that, whether by an attached or a detached ADU. So that's just one of the benefits of doing it, in addition to increasing the value of your property, making things legal and so forth. So that would be more for converting an existing structure that perhaps is legal, but even a non-conforming like a garage conversion that might have been done without permits in the past, getting something like that legalized and through the amnesty process will definitely reap benefits. So anyway, getting on the legalization of unpermitted ADUs, the process is now codified at the state level. Government Code 663.11.7 and the Health and Safety Code 17980.12 not only authorizes, but in some cases obliges local governments to adopt programs and policies that will enable us to legalize some occupancies. I'll wait for just a second, let everybody get settled in. Next slide, please. All right, for those who just came in, I'm Fred Lustenberger. I'm the building official. This is Tom. He's one of our planners, and Jerry. And so anyway, in the process of legalizing unpermitted ADUs, our goal is safety of the building, more so than getting you to comply 100% with current codes. This kind of is a big consideration because particularly if finances or other issues are a barrier, we're looking at just the basics for a particular building or structure or space of your house that's being converted. We're looking for things such as inadequate sanitation, structural hazards, fire protection, and I don't mean sprinklers so much as firewalls, perhaps, if there's a garage connected to it, or if it's separating the proposed ADU from the existing house, things of that nature. Yes, we do apply building code standards, but we're not as perhaps rigid as we would otherwise be on a new or other type of building that we're doing in town, where we apply the full 2025 building code. So that's another benefit, as Tom mentioned, about going through the process. So we're looking at basically the bare minimum to make the space compliant and safe and lacking hazards. Okay. So our goal is to improve safety, bring units into compliance, reduce barriers to legalization, and support safe housing opportunities. Okay. So talking about the process, kind of the first step is come down and talk with us about it. Say, you know, this is what we have. We'll work with you on it. We are here to help you get through the process and answer any questions you might have. We'll certainly be able to, you know, tell you what hurdles you're going to have and what challenges you might encounter as you're going through the process. But I will tell you from both the planning side of the shop and the building side of the shop, it's probably going to be one of the most abbreviated and simplified processes to do this particular process. The next thing we need is site evaluation and documentation. In some cases, we may go out and do a pre-site evaluation, take a look at what you have, determine what we will need in documentation, such as plans, blueprints, what have you, energy calculations, that kind of thing, to help meet the minimum that we're looking for going through the process. Once we get that squared away, and in some cases you may be able to do some of this work yourself. In other cases, you may wish to hire a design professional or even a contractor who has experience doing this and can get you minimum plans and documentation. Then you'll come to the building counter, submit for a building permit application. And it will go through both building and zoning review, which is the planning review, to see if it meets the bare bones requirements for planning as far as setbacks are concerned and height limits and so forth. You'll identify required corrections and upgrades, and we will do that both at a site visit and through the plan check process. And then those will get worked out, might be 2 or 3 review process cycles. And once that's good to go, we say, okay, your plans are ready. You'll come down and get a permit for doing it. And I should mention the permit's free. Okay, so that's kind of another benefit to doing this. And then between 5 and 6, there's probably one minor bullet that's missing, and that is you'll complete the work. And then we'll come out and we'll complete the inspection. So there probably would be at least 2, 3, perhaps 4 inspections to look at, depending upon how much work you need to bring your occupancy up to, or your unit, I should say, up to compliance, and you know, how large it is and the challenges involved. And then you'll receive a final approval, and then it's legalized. Okay. Okay, what does health and safety mean? These are kind of broad-based areas, but in a nutshell, it's emergency exits. Do you have egress windows in the sleeping rooms, the bedrooms, so that if you get a fire, you can get out without having to go through where the fire might be located? Fire and carbon monoxide safety, which is basically fire and CO alarms. Okay, kind of bare bones. Give you an idea here of where we wouldn't, this is just a good example of where we wouldn't apply current code for this. If it's an existing space, you'd be able to use the 10-year lithium battery one in lieu of the hardwired one that has battery backup. That's just an example of where we have a little bit more latitude here. Okay. Electrical hazards, that's kind of a major concern that we look through, make sure that we don't have any hazardous wiring. But if we're missing an outlet here or there, we're certainly not going to have you tear the wall apart to put a couple outlets in. We'll figure out what we can do to mitigate that. Okay. Plumbing and sanitation. This is one area where it could be quite simple. Other areas where it might be a little bit dicey, particularly if it's a garage conversion and you have an existing slab and it was put in some time ago, we would need to do some kind of an inspection of the under slab waste plumbing. We need to know that that's put in safely and correct. Well, there are some ways to do that where we don't have to cut up the slab. We can do it through a camera. Sewer company can come out and do that. If we can show that we have proper fall, that the waters or the wastewater is moving forward properly and it's configured correctly, and we don't have any serious hazards, that's something that we can generally work through with that. Also, that you have clean potable water in there. You have a kitchen sink that functions, in a bathroom, hot and cold water, for example. Those are the things we're looking at. Structural safety, it goes without saying, we don't want the roof ready to collapse. We want to make sure that it's secure, that there's no evident or obvious structural compromising to the building, that you have natural light and ventilation that can be accomplished through openable windows. In the bathroom, for example, you might have to put in a bath fan of that nature. Habitability standards. Another example here in the bathroom, perhaps your shower is a little bit smaller than the current code required minimum. That might be an area where, based on the size of the unit, we can live with it, if everything else works. And it doesn't, it's demonstrated that it will work for, a small studio size unit. That's something that we can talk about and discuss. Okay. So that's kind of what we're kind of covering here, is we don't need to get the full Monty, so to speak. We can live with some less than desirable situations as long as they don't present hazard either to the ADU occupants or to the house that it may be attached to or close proximity to. Okay. Next slide, please. Some common ADU conversion considerations, it depends on the property, may include your parking requirements, utility connections, sewer line capacity and serviceability. I will add a note there that the town currently, we're in communication with the local sewer district, one of them at least, regarding how they approach sewer hookups, and we're making progress with them and where it's becoming more realistic what they're doing. They're not charging a ADU as a full, or the proposals, they won't charge it as a full unit, rather just the usage for the fixtures. Usually it's one or two, maybe three in an ADU that we have to look at. You have your shower, your bath lavy, sink, and your kitchen sink. Setbacks and height considerations, that's something we will look at. One thing I will say is that there's more, it's a little bit more forgiving on the setbacks from the property line than if you were to build a new ADU from scratch. However, if you are too close to the property line, we will mitigate it with, on that particular wall, with some kind of a fire wall would protect it if it's less than 5 feet from the property line. But point is that we are a little bit more flexible with that requirement, and that's more on the planning side of the shop. Fire access, occupancy requirements, and building code compliance. So these are the considerations we'd work through, and we are happy to discuss those with you if you come into the counter, talk with you about that, set up a time we can have a meeting. And if it looks like it might be beneficial, we can definitely come out, do a pre-site inspection, look at what you have, and let you know what you're in for, to go for it, and what you'd be looking at in the process. But I think it would be probably less burdensome than a lot of folks might think. Next slide, please. Okay, so the permit and reviews, these are kind of the different agency reviews that you would need to go through. And it depends on the project, the particulars may involve public works, planning, building. I would say it's probably going to involve planning and building kind of as a starting point. Fire district, maybe. On that note there, if your existing home has fire sprinklers, that would be the instance in when your ADU would also be required to have fire sprinklers. If it doesn't have fire sprinklers, then state law allows you not to have sprinklers in the ADU. So that's kind of a cut and dry there. And utility districts, and that's sewer, PG&E, et cetera. Possible permit types. Well, we kind of do a building permit kind of all encompassed. So it's building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, but they're not separate. They're all rolled up in one. Okay. Next slide, please. Potential cost and improvements. Your architectural plans, engineering, permit fees, utility upgrades, construction improvements, and safety additions. Well, here, you're not going to have permit fees, at least not on the building side for a building permit. That's something that even for ADU that is not a conversion, that is, you want to build a new ADU or convert part of your home into an attached ADU, we don't have permit fees for that. It's done pro bono. Architectural plans, if anyone's considering building a detached ADU, there are numerous resources now. Many counties in the state, they have plans that you can get for free that are fully ready to be for different plans. And there's many of them out there now. Utility upgrades, that is something that we would look at during the process, which is we get what's called your electrical calculations to make sure we have enough power at the house main panel, that it will be able to feed the ADU. In most cases, we'll get a separate electrical meter for that. You can do it either in the same electrical panel or one that's separate. But we have to make sure that we have adequate power for the proposed space and so forth. So construction improvements, obviously that's going to be a cost. Rather you tackle the project yourself, or you get a contractor, which is generally the case. That's something that you have to work out through the contractual phase. And safety additions or corrections. So you may have some additional things that may need to be done, perhaps stairs, a few stairs to get in, or handrails, smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms. You may need to do some improvements here and there, roofing, what have you. But that's what we would need to look at to make sure that everything gets brought in. Available resources and support. First and foremost, you have town staff here. You can come in and talk to us, and we're happy to help you. We want you to go through the process so we can get these ADUs legalized and get them on the town's records. Informational handouts. There are many available. Just a Google search away. There's one here for Bay Area governments. There's one here. This is one that the state of California. This is the most recent one from March. A lot of good information in there for ADUs in general, and in some cases, ADU legalization and the amnesty program. Permit checklist, we have those online. Kind of shows what your inspections might be. Our municipal code and other county and advocacy websites. Okay. With that, does anyone have any questions for me or for the other presenters?
I wanted that. Thank you. Sorry. I don't live on one of the multi-acre lots in Atherton. I live in a regular neighborhood. I call it the ghetto of Atherton, so right nearby here. We are in a situation where our front yard is probably 2 to 3 times the size of our backyard. We'd like to build on the front. Now, what I thought I read was that to start your ADU, you need to actually start where the property, the home is actually exists now before you can build out from that. Is that accurate? Are you able to build in the front of your property or no?
This work? Okay. Yes, there are ADU options that you can build in the front. Part of what the state allows is if you have a detached ADU or attached, if it's 800 square feet or less, you can go in the front property no matter what a local jurisdiction's setbacks usually are for other types of homes. So yeah, if it's 800 square feet or less, and there's some other requirements that you have to meet, but that's floor area requirement is 800 or less. It's allowed to be in the front.
Okay. And then the setbacks are what for the 800 square feet?
No front setback, and then 4-foot side and rear setbacks. Tom asked me what the setback for if you go above 800 is. Then you do have a front setback. If you go up to 1,200 square feet, above 800 square feet, the front is 30 feet behind the front line of the house. So it depends on the lot. Yeah, it's the same as where like a detached garage or a pool house can go in the town.
You will need to be 10 feet away from the house, at least, or you will have to fire protected construction on both the ADU wall that abuts to it and the house itself.
And that's with an 800 or a 1,200.
Excuse me?
You need to be 10 feet away from the main house, regardless of the ADU size.
Yeah, that's the building code.
1,200.
Yeah, that's the fire code.
Just wanted to know, does Atherton adopt the SB 9 at all here at the city for ADUs?
I can answer this one. Yes, we do have an SB 9 ordinance. It's a state law. For those who aren't sure what SB 9 is, that allows you to split your lot into 2 and then develop on the 2 new lots. We do allow ADUs. Once you split the lot, you do have a 2-unit max. So if there's a existing house, then you can only build 1 ADU on there, and then you've maxed out your 2 units. But yes, you can do ADUs on an SB 9 lot.
Thank you. One more question. Regards to permits, what's your average time frame with approved plans for permits approval?
Providing that all the planning issues are done. For the building plan check, we're 10 business days for each review. Theoretically, if the plans were ready to go and there was nothing missing on them, we could get it done within about 2 weeks. Typically, though, it's more about 4 to 5 weeks because we go through multiple reviews.
Are there any special considerations for prefabricated ADUs that, you'd be able to, there's a lot of different companies that provide something of that nature. Does it kind of follow the general rules, or is there something different in the town of Atherton?
From the building side of the shop, no. We've looked at those. When I was with the county, we did many of those. I think the logistics of getting the crane to lift it up and over the house, that kind of thing is probably the largest challenge. And generally, they build a permanent foundation and then they lower it down on there. But the same setbacks as far as the building code is concerned would apply to those. And
For planning, I'll just say we would review it like any other ADU. So just height, setbacks, floor area.
we don't have them on our site, but you can find them on other jurisdiction site. I know that Placer County has several of them on there. And I believe, I'm not sure if San Mateo has them yet. But there are other jurisdictions that have those, and you'll have to check with them to see what their limitations are. But I know that they have, they're basically free plans. They're ready to build. It depends on the site. You probably still would have to have some, your site plan would still have to be done custom to what you're doing. And depending on the size, we may have to have geotechnical analysis. And the one thing that I would probably add, and this you can kind of separate ADUs, generally speaking, into two types, attached and detached, okay? The one that you're speaking about would be more of a detached building. Attached, they each have their own challenges and benefits. If you have a larger home and it's worth subdividing part of it into it, you can do that. But it's a little bit more challenging to do the fire separation wall between them. But some folks like that because you can have a door that goes from the house into the ADU, but it has to be kind of like what you might have seen in hotels where it's lockable from both sides and it's fully weather stripped because you may have one unit not heated in the other one. So it has to be treated almost like an exterior door. Advantages of that is you still can take advantage of the floor area ratio reduction if you do that with part of your home. We have somebody now that's working through that, and he's doing just that so that he can put the size garage that he wants to do. Detached, like we talked about, you have we start with a 10-foot separation, but if you can do a firewall on the ADU and on the existing house, on the ones that abut each other, then that can be reduced in some cases to 0. So, yes, I'll let it go at that. Yes.
With a detached ADU, how does the utilities work? I mean, so are you all into the one? I mean, so you have a separate meter for the gas and electric for the ADU versus the main house, or is it all just all one?
I don't know what PG&E is doing right now. I actually have an ADU in my home, and we have a separate meter, but we do the same gas and water for the tenant. So, no, usually they make it an A. If you're 1117, it would be 1117A. That's generally what the county likes to do. I would refer you to the the county, I think, would handle that for the addressing, but they generally want it to be the same address, but with the A suffix.
I work with, oh, I don't. Work with a lot of cities. Some cities look at the trees you have in your backyard and they prefer you to remove, and if you remove it, they ask you to replant it. Is it the same for Atherton?
Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
It depends. Earlier, I brought up the 800 square foot ADU threshold. That's kind of the threshold that the state puts on. When you go for a detached ADU, if you go below 800 square feet, it becomes like what's called a state exempt ADU, and they have their certain rules that we cannot apply, rules that aren't authorized by the state. And one of them is tree related issues. So for an ADU that's 800 square feet or less, we can't apply our normal heritage tree ordinance that we do. So normally, yes, we would require a process through planning commission to remove a tree, or if you're building too close to a heritage tree, and in that case, we may require replanting of a tree. But in the case of a state exempt ADU, we cannot do that. But ADUs that do go above 800 square feet, we do that. Several of them go through planning commission where they have to apply for special permission to remove a tree.
Get to that existing. Not have. Right, you would have a site plan. You identify the size of the tree. Then it counts. So those have to be identified on the site. And what we do, your arborist or you could measure out, 8 times, 6 times the range. What's the 3 hours? Yeah, I have cards.
Sure,
Something
sure.
that can be found on.
It's real easy. It's real easy. This is something, this is one, this is the state one. Okay. This is by, Department of, it's HCD, it's Department of Housing and Community Development. Accessory Dwelling Handbook.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Yeah, and this one is by the Bay Area Association of
got that
Government.
Okay.
Okay,
And that's it.
that was it that we had.
Okay.
This one, well, this one's just you can actually, in this site, there's a link to this.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
To call it an ADU or not?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's built 1925. I'm on 2 lots. The side of Belgrade. I'm the 4th owner,
yeah.
and the previous owners, like, it was a Gardner cottage, and they, 40 years ago, upgraded it and changed it.
Interesting.
And I'm sure that the stairs are not, that it has a little tiny loft, but, so what is the advantage of getting it? All this and having it? I guess it's been there for 100 years.
Well, if it was there, then that's what we call existing non-compliant. Means it was there before the town did building
Yeah,
regulation.
1925.
Yeah, so it's by its existence there, it's legal. It's legal non-conforming. Okay,
Because we've had the electrical upgraded, and we have solar now on the other part of the house, and that goes out to that. I mean.
well, what you could do with it, I mean, is it self-supporting, it has its own kitchen and everything in it?
Yeah.
Okay, so something like that.
Back in 1925. With the
Well, then it's a perfect candidate for the process. You don't have to legalize it. You can just convert it and make it an official ADU. And in that case, you just correct any, minor things that might be like the stairs you're talking about. Maybe we don't rebuild them, maybe put a handrail.
Oak tree that is
Yeah.
great, so we built the deck around that.
8 feet. And it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I mean, I have 21 oak trees on our property.
Yeah.
That are heritage.
Yeah, that's gorgeous, but sounds nice.
Well, it is, but you know, I've been maintaining it, yeah, and it is beautiful. Like we have the leaded windows, not on the ADU, but on our house, they don't make anymore. The wood we have.
One advantage that you could do if you converted it to a bona fide ADU
Yes.